and it's not right. The one thing I love about having God in your business is that it's going to be done the right way. And that's how we should be doing everything that we do, the right way. Not saying that you're not going to get money back, because you're definitely going to get something, but we want to make sure that it's done the right way. So is that pretty much all the tips for that?
I have more tips.
Okay.
But for hairstylists, I would say this. If you are an independent contractor, you should be setting your own hours. You should be purchasing your own products and supplies. You should have basically your own business phone number, business name, and be determining your own prices. If you are a employee of a salon, if you're getting commission or things like that, the owner is responsible for making sure that you have the document that you need, which is a W-2 if you are an employee. Most times an employee, they don't set their own prices, they don't set their own hours, they don't pay for any expenses such as supplies or things like that. So that should help differentiate whether you're an employee or a booth renter / independent contractor.
I do have a question, April, if you don't mind me cutting you off for a second.
No problem.
Because it just made me think about something. I know a lot of different people, and sometimes I feel like people are afraid of filing their taxes because they have done so many things wrong in the past. But what do you suggest a person like that do? I know that they have something called amendments and stuff like that. Could you give us some insight on what we should do if we are like, let's say somebody has not filed their taxes in like the last 3 years or something like that because they're so scared that they're going to owe some money? What type of advice or what type of tip could you give that person? What should they bring to you, or, you know, just something that can help them so that they can stop feeling afraid of filing these tax returns?
Absolutely, and that's an excellent question. Most people do run when they have not filed or done what they were supposed to do. So that's a great question. And so I'll speak on this from both aspects. If you are just a person in general that has not filed in the last 3 years, you need to file. You have to start with the last year to get caught up. In order to file, you have to have the earliest tax return prepared in order to do the one that's coming up or to be due now. And so I would say, put your fear aside. Don't be afraid. I mean, if the IRS is not knocking on your door now, 9 times out of 10, they're not going to knock right now. So you have time. So I would say, don't run. The longer you run, the worse things are. So I would say, get with the tax accountant. If you don't have one, I am definitely open to taking new clients. The one thing I always tell my clients, don't think that it'll be easy. Most of the time, if you have not filed in 3 years, you probably don't even know where your documents are. So for a person that is a contractor or a self-employed individual, a stylist that just has not filed their taxes in the last 3 years, if you come to me, you will have homework. And here's the reason why. Do you remember what you bought, let's say in 2018?
No.
Most times you don't remember. So, and most people aren't keeping receipts. So what I would suggest is, most of us go to a beauty supply store, Paul's, or some of the other known companies to buy our products. So most times they have your phone number, or you have some type of membership where they maybe have a history of what you purchased over the course of that year. So that would be your homework. You would need to find, what did I actually spend money on in this particular year? Then you would need to go do homework, gather all those expenses, find out maybe everywhere you may have spent money for your business. Like, for an example, if you have a card that you use, a credit card that you use, maybe go to that bank statement and look for all the items or expenses that you bought with that card that is business related. And then those are the things that you would have to go off of. Now, what I will say is, you may still run into some trouble if you were audited. And the reason is, if you don't have receipts and records to show that you actually bought these things for business, it's possible you can run into a jam. And I'm only saying that if you were audited. If you're not audited, then fine. That's what you have to use because that's what you have. So on the opposite side of that, the income. How were you tracking your income in 2018? Did you have Square? Were you taking cash? These are the things that I would not be able to know. You would have to do the homework to figure out what all income did I make in 2018. So if you didn't file, that's where you would start as a stylist or entrepreneur or business owner. You would need to do homework to figure out what it is that you did that year. And so for a person that has a job, that is an employee, if you don't know where your documents are, your W-2s and other documents that you need to have to file your tax return, what I tell my clients is, let's be for sure. And the way to do that is to start with the IRS by asking or retrieving your transcript. Mm-hmm. What your transcript shows is everything that was reported to the IRS on your behalf.
Right.
An example is, if you worked at a job, let's say Safeway for an example, and you worked there for 6 months, and then you said, okay, I'm going to go work at Giant. You may only remember, oh, I worked at Safeway, but what about Giant? If you leave that W-2 off, then how can you report it?
Right.
So if you have the transcript, it will remind you, oh, I did work at Safeway and Giant that year. It'll also show the gross amount that you made at Giant and Safeway for that year.
Yep.
So you will want to start with your transcript. It'll show any income that was reported against you, and that is what you want to put on your tax return. Mm-hmm. On a state side, you have to request that a different way, but you will want to have the federal transcript does not have the state information on it, so you would have homework again by requesting a transcript to know what you paid out on what was paid out to you on the federal side, and then on the state side you will want to get the state documents, the W-2 that they hold to show if you paid income tax to the employer. You want to be able to retrieve that. So I would say, even though it's homework, even though it's things that you would have to do, still get caught up, because you cannot run forever.
That's some of the best advice ever, and I hope that everybody is taking heed to that, because I know so many people that are just afraid. I mean, and I understand their fright, their fear, because you don't never want to have to pay a whole lot of money, but I understand that if you pretty much didn't file taxes, you kind of bringing it on yourself. So, but it's okay to go ahead and get caught up, and it's okay that you have help. So you all might want to reach out if you need some help. And
one other thing I want to add to that, don't always assume that you're going to owe. That's don't know if you're going to owe until you put your information together and put it in a tax software.
You might get some money back.
Exactly.
You never know.
So don't assume and don't hesitate. Just get caught up.
Exactly. That was such great advice, April.
Thank you.
For my listeners, y'all know I always got to find a scripture. So I found one in Romans 13 out of the New Living Translation, verse 6. And it says, pay your taxes too, for these same reasons. For government workers need to be paid. They are serving God in what they do. So we have to pay our taxes. Even in the Bible, it states that you have to pay taxes. There were tax collectors back in that day, and just like it is now. And it's something we cannot run from. I mean, it's said it in the Bible. And April just shared it with us that that's something that we can't avoid. Mm-hmm. So why try to run from it? Just take care of it. God is with you. He'll work out some things for you. Just pray about it and get it done. So my next question for Miss April is, basically, I just want you to tell us why it's important to have an accountant to do our books. I know why it's probably important for self-employed people like myself, especially like during this time when I'm trying to buy a house. I see that it's important, to have an accountant, because you want to make sure that you're separating money. And you can speak a little bit about that. And then, like, when people go to buy houses that are self-employed, they don't always report all of their income, and it kind of makes things difficult. So you can speak to that.
Absolutely. So this is an area that I love, because like I said, I'm not just a tax accountant. I'm also a accountant that does bookkeeping for small businesses as well as entrepreneurs. So what I would say, the reason why I think that every business owner should have an accountant is because, first of all, professionalism. You would be looked at or viewed differently if you had an accountant doing the things like your financials. Let's say, for example, if you went to a stylist and they invoiced you, and you can pay off that invoice where you don't have to have cash. It will save them time and you time. You can just click one button that says pay now, depending on the software that you're using. You can hit pay now and it's done. So I would say professionalism is very key and important. You also want to have accurate numbers. You don't want to think that you have everything added up right and you're missing stuff. Whereas if you had an accounting software, even for small entrepreneurs, even for stylists, there's a software for you that will allow you to keep everything in one place, and then everything is accurate that way. It will also allow you to have financial statements. So for an example, if you were going to buy a car or a house, they will want to have financials from you. If you're doing everything yourself, then how do you produce financial statements? If they say they want to see the profit and loss, if you have an accountant, that's a click of a button. Or if they want to see your balance sheet, then you just ask your accountant, I need a copy of my balance sheet. Or if you're actually involved in your business, you would already have a copy to be able to present to the loan officers or the banks if you're going to get a loan maybe. But these documents are definitely going to be required if you're trying to buy a house or buy a car and things of that nature. So I would say having an accountant will cut out some of the work for you to have to do. There's a way that the accountant can be involved with the loan officer for a house, for an example, that can give them the documents straight through a portal, or, give them the documents without you having to ask me for them and then send them. So I think it's very important to have an accountant that would do these things for you. If you had an accountant, you can do things like if you had employees, you can pay them payroll. If you had an accountant that you needed, maybe let's say some bills that you needed to pay, you can send those bills to your accountant and they would do your accounts payable for you. So it cuts out a lot of the things that would take away from you focusing on your business that someone else that's specialized can handle. So I think it's important for all business owners, small, medium, large, even entrepreneurs that are just starting out. I think it's good to have an accountant to keep you on track so you can know what your business look like, where your money is going, how you're spending your money, how is it coming in. Those are things that are really important.
That was some great information. I really, really appreciate it. I'm learning a lot just by listening to everything that you're saying. And it makes a whole lot of sense, especially, having an accountant. I think that's a awesome addition to your business. I mean, we spend a lot of money anyway as business owners. We might as well cover ourselves by making sure that we have the proper things in place, like bookkeeping, software and all of that, to help us stay on track, because it's a lot for us to do day to day anyway. So it's important to have some help. So tell us how we can set up an appointment with you and how we could contact you. And do we have to live in the same state with you to be able to get our taxes done by you, or have you as an accountant?
That's a good question. So I prepare taxes for all 50 states. I am also virtual, and I can prepare taxes remote. I use e-signature, so you don't have to be sitting right here physically in the office. So there are many ways now in this century where you can live in. I have clients, let's say for an example, in Georgia. I have a client that just moved to Pennsylvania. So these clients move from Maryland, but I have to know the state laws in order to prepare the state side of the taxes, which is important to me to continue my education. So the best way to get in contact with me, you can call the office at 301-433-8939. I am in the office Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays by appointment. Another way to contact me is by email. You can email me at info@accountingplustaxservices.com, and I'll spell that out. info@accounting, P like Paul, LUS, tax, TAXSERV as in Victor, ICES.com. You can also follow me on social media. Facebook is Accounting Plus Taxes. Instagram is Accounting Plus Tax Services. You can find me on LinkedIn at April Moore, ACCT. And I'm also on Twitter. However, I'm not